So for the tree, we're going to work on the tree today. Before I start working on the tree, I just want to talk about the colors we're using here. So what we're using in this painting mostly is orange, purple, and green. These are the three colors. So it's a triad. If you look at the, oops, sorry, here you go. That's orange. I'm gonna zoom out a bit and push this one out. So we have orange, purple, and green. It's a nice triad. These colors are secondary colors. They're not they're not red, you know, red, blue, and yellow. They're a combination, right? Secondary, not primary colors. So what's nice about these colors is that they tone each other down. You can desaturate your colors by mixing them together. Instead of using a strong orange, let's say, you could use orange and you can put some purple in it, and that will tone it down and make it more grayish. Because in nature, the orange that we're using right here, we're using oranges in here, but we were putting some other color in it. I can't remember what we were putting in it. But these colors, if you mix them, even if you mix green and orange, that will kind of tone those strong colors and make them more earthy. So it's a good combination. Now, even with these, if you look at this orange, if you add black to this orange, you're going to get brown right here. That's a brown. So these are nice three colors to put together. Now I'm going to go in and really start with the tree trunk. I was adjusting the focus. All right, so what we're gonna do, let's take raw umber. So these are raw umber, sap green, black, ivory black, or any black you have, yellow ochre, and I have here cerulean and white for highlight. So I'm gonna take raw umber, and I can, at this point, take a bit of black, put it in. We're going to play around with these colors. So we're not going to have the same color everywhere. And I'm going to come here and, oh, that's still too, let's put some yellow ochre in here. So round brush. I know in the reference, you can see parts that are kind of dark green in there, or dark, it's like a black. This is not black. This is just because of the printer. So it might be a little bit darker, but not black. I'm going to take a tiny bit of sap green, put it in, make it more earthy, and introduce some sap green as well in here. Again. So I'm trying to introduce other colors. It will dry darker, especially because it's on a dark background. And this, after it dries, I can adjust my values. Oh, you can hardly see what I'm doing. Just 1 minute. I'm going to stop recording and adjust the light. Okay, so this is slightly better. Let's take some colors again, some black, a bit of yellow ochre, put a touch of green in it.
Sharp green.
Sap green. It's all about, mostly about texture. I take raw umber. And it will show a little bit better when we start highlighting. Raw umber, sap green. Just go back and forth, add some different colors here and there. So it's not the same color everywhere. Some greens in there. Earthy greens, dark browns. I'm gonna add a tiny bit more of black the more I go up because of the shadows. Hardly see what I'm doing, but it is dark on my canvas. You have a lot of glare in there. I know I can see exactly what's happening in there. It's just very dark. But if you mix these colors, you'll know that these are like toned down earth colors, black, or not black, dark, I should say, not black. We will highlight them in the right place in the next step. And you can see from the reference, you know, you can hardly see any any color in there. It's just really dark. And that's the beauty about this reference, by the way. It's that strong, beautiful, darkish, almost black branches, tree. I'm going to bring in some branches in here.
Want to lower the camera?
Pardon? Yes, camera up. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm improvising a bit. Okay. I'll move to smaller brush, narrower in a minute. I'm just putting the big ones now. Some of the big ones. So now let's move into this one here. So the ones in the top, on the top, are really dark right now. This is like dark. Okay, I'm changing my brush. That's better. Once we add the trees or not, I mean the leaves on the floor, I'll go back and then I'll go back and add adjust the leaves over. So I'm cleaning up the branches right now.
Have you finished with the flowers?
Flowers?
I
With
mean,
the leaves,
the leaves, yes, yes. Have
Some
you,
of them, some
okay.
of them, some of them.
some of them, okay.
Yeah. I'm sure they will need some adjustments. Starting to come back, starting to get the shape back. It's drying so dark. See in here? Okay. So since I'm doing this, I'm gonna come back here and I'm just gonna add a couple of little ones, like really tiny, tiny ones, if possible. Yeah. It's nice because then you going from big branches, very thick, to small, soft ones. Otherwise, it looks a bit funny. Okay. So the whole thing will continue, we should be continuing, but not much here. Just, we're gonna leave some leaves showing in this area. So this is good, that's good. Maybe it's up to you if you want to put like small, tiny branches or not. The whole thing is about the tree in general. Right, this we can continue later on, but, and this area here, because it needs to be worked. But I think what we should do right now is actually go back to the base. And do some fighting in here. And I'm gonna add a tiny bit of white and blue. And put some raw umber in there. Tiny bit of black. Wipe my brush. That needs a bit of more brown in here. Raw umber. Raw umber, yellow ochre, some greens, and some highlights in here so we can see a bit of that tree. Same like here, that's what we did right there. It's a beautiful, earthy green. Because raw umber has a bit of green in it. And then we're putting black and sap green, yellow ochre, so this is giving me a really nice texture. It's a bit grayish right now, but that's okay. I don't mind it being a bit gray. I think it's because of the black. But the higher I go up, the less of these highlights. Okay. And the deeper I go in, I get less of the highlights and more darks. It's going to be like almost like a dark brown or earthy tones of different. It could be dark green. So I'm using more of the black in here in my color because I just want to cover. I want to cover this black gesso that I have here, but I don't want it to be too light. Okay. I'm gonna stop recording. Okay, so I'm gonna highlight a bit this area again using raw umber and blue and white, the same blue and white that I'm using for the sky. I'm just gonna highlight that area and the tree. Now, what I'm gonna do, I wanna wipe my brush and use a dry brush and just skim over, passing enough highlights. And doing this, the dry brush, it gives me texture. It's very, very soft, kind of skimming over passing my brush over. Keeping an eye on what this brush is doing, but I really like the texture. Again. A bit of darks in here, so it doesn't look like it's on one level. You know, you're in with the tree, you have different kind of ins and outs, and you have textured, and it's not straight. So where there's an in, it goes in, you will have darks in there. The camera is giving us a lot of darks that are not really in here. You know, there's a bit more color than what you're seeing on the camera. It's just kind of. Okay. All right, so now we're working on the bottom part. So if we have orange, if you have orange ready, cadmium orange, or I'm using this vivid red orange, I just have it. I squeeze the orange on my palette like that, as you see how vivid and strong it is. And even cadmium orange is strong. So what I did is I took a bit of green that I have in here, sap green, and I just mixed it in. And that will just tone it down, make it more earthy, so I can start putting the first layer. Now, if you put the first layer and you can't see the orange, because that means you're putting too much green in there. It's right there, right now. There, that's good. So any color from the background in your orange will be fine. Even yellow ochre, but ultramarine violet will do, green will do, blue will make your orange more gray, because anyway, blue is opposite orange on the color wheel, so it will gray it. Okay, so I'm using round brush, and all I'm doing is I'm just kind of dabbing across. And it's nice, we're going to build up layers in here. And if you have a thick paint, that's good. It gives you texture. Now, the orange I'm using is a bit transparent. So if you're using cadmium orange, you might have a bit more of a stronger pigment. So this one here is a bit transparent, which is not bad, because it's kind of not taking over too much. It's just changing the bottom part into an orange, and more of a toned down orange, earthy orange. Yeah, it's definitely transparent, the color I'm using. So now I'm going to take, let me see. All right. Yellow ochre. Wipe my brush, pick up yellow ochre, and let me see if I can, yeah. Good. I'm going to mix it sometimes with the orange, sometimes without, but the yellow ochre is good. Eventually, I'm gonna take, and maybe now, touch of sap green, put it in my yellow ochre, very small amount, and get some sap green in here. Sap green mixed with yellow ochre. Now just yellow ochre, go back. So alternate. Orange is awesome at the bottom. It's just so vivid. I mean, not kind of vivid, but it's there. It's like a beautiful orange. I'm going between yellow ochre and sap green mixed with yellow ochre. If you find that you have too much yellow ochre and sap green and you're losing the orange in there, go back with a bit of orange after on top. Okay, that's good. I'm going back with that toned down orange, and my toned down orange is going to look a bit different over this yellow ochre and green. It is there. It's actually, it looks better than over when it was over the dark strong red that I had before. So when I get to this part here, which is the side, I'm gonna loosen up my brush stroke a bit, so a little bit bigger. I just want to keep that detail over here close to the tree. So here we have a bit of more, kind of a more loose. Okay, let's go back. Oh, too big. the more layers I'm putting, the nicer it looks. Okay, I'm going to take a tiny bit of white now and put my white into touch of white into my yellow ochre. So we did that couple of layers of, you know, combination of yellow ochre, a bit of sap green in some areas with yellow ochre, and then go back to the toned down orangey, earthy green, orange. So we're building up layers and layers, and the more layers you build up, the more rich it looks. So now I'm putting dabs of yellow ochre in with a bit of white in there, just a tiny bit. So, because you know, when you start putting layers of earth tones, they mix and you lose a bit of the texture. But this way, texture is there, it looks good. And now I'm gonna go back to sap green. I'm gonna put my sap green in that same yellow ochre and white that I used. And that will make my sap green a little bit lighter, but still earthy. And I'm just dabbing here and there. Okay. I'm gonna just bring some of this orange up here and clean up a bit. I don't think you can see what I'm doing. Okay, right here with that. Same colors I was using down at the bottom. I'm just cleaning up a bit. All right, I'm not gonna, I'm gonna leave it. I am not going to put any benches or people walking, or just leave it like that.